Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Soul Talks with Alka. So they say that things are not as perfect as they seem to the outer world, and God only gives you what you can handle. So both of those statements are true for my next guest. Her world was not a perfect world when I met her, even though to the rest of the world it may have seemed that way. And apparently God trusts her a lot because he threw a lot on Lenore's plate. And with that, I'm going to welcome Lenore Boyarin.
Hi, Alka. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
It's a delight.
So, Lenore, before I met you, you had a beautiful house up the hill, 2 boys, perfect relationship, beautiful parties. That's what it seemed like to the world.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes.
But that's not. When you called me in and you told me your story, that was not your story. Yeah. So tell me what Lenore was going through.
I was dealing with a mentally ill husband who clearly was mentally ill before I met him. Wow. Now that I know so much more about mental health issues, not just personally, but from professional engagement and what I do for a living. And then my son, my younger son, I knew was gay from the time he was 3 years old. But again, when it comes to adolescence, and then they're really engaging in the world in a different way with different people, to find out that his father's not capable of loving his own son was another layer.
Right. Because that was against what he believed in, right? He didn't believe that was the right thing, so he couldn't.
Yes, he had very rigid belief systems, which was a red flag on mental health that I wasn't aware of at the time.
Right.
So by the time I saw you, I was riding on a flat tire for a while.
Yes.
So I knew I needed an exit strategy, but I did have the house, 2 cars, 2 kids, a big dog, big job. And it was, I really wish sometimes that God wouldn't trust me so much.
But he trusts you and he knows you're going to rise beyond. And you did. And we'll get to that. But you have really risen beyond all circumstances.
Yeah, it's not in my nature. I've done a lot of soul searching. And that's, I think one of the things you asked me is my, in my words of takeaway to other people.
Yes.
And so I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to tell you what I'm going to say, and then I'm going to explain it, and then I'm going to tell you what I said.
Absolutely.
So my takeaway is, first of all, like they say on the airplane, put on your own oxygen mask.
100%.
Yeah. If you're not taking care of yourself in at least some basic ways, you can't help anybody else. That's clear.
Yes.
The second thing is really listen when somebody says, what's wrong? Some people will be saying it just to gossip around town. We know those types.
Yes.
Then you tell them nothing. But in your heart, you'll know the right people to say what's going on and accept some help, because anything that's going on in your life that's out of the norm, whatever is normal these days, there's somebody that could help in some small way.
Yes.
And I was really not good at that. When I tell my younger self, I would say that.
Well, it's because you're an attorney. You think you can do it all. You don't need any help. You've got it all under control.
And we are enculturated as women to not complain.
Yes.
So, if you ask for help, boy, somebody say you failed along the way. You should be able to do this and that. And, people don't really want to know what's wrong. That you're enculturated that way.
Yeah.
So that's I found fantastic women along the way in my journey that have learned share, because it could really come up and be part of the solution rather than be part of the problem. And the third really big takeaway is about supporting children in a household where there is mental illness. Particularly a parent, but it could be a grandparent that's there often, or it could be a sibling that's mentally ill, and what do you do for the other sibling? And that's where you have to not take help often. because people would, think they were supporting me by saying they're not babies, cut these strings. They have to figure this out themselves.
Yeah.
Tough love does not belong in a house with a toxic relationship.
Yes.
And that was really hard, because people to this day still say, I can't believe, fill in the blank. And my kids are fabulous. They're 29 and 31.
Yes. So how did you handle the household when you found out that you have, how did you deal with your ex-husband and letting him know on how to love your son who is gay, or were you ever not able to do that?
No, I was never able to get through on that level. We had a lot of discussions. I insisted we go to therapy. The first thing in mental illness is a person's going to lose the filter that they don't see themselves the way other people see them. And then when you're dealing with that, boy, there's really no place to go from there.
Yeah.
That's really rough.
Yeah.
So, all the normal things, it's your son, you can't give up on your own child. I'll never give up on a child. That's why I'm successful in my practice.
Right.
People come in, and just like you, people come to you, there's a family problem. It could be even a happy problem, but it's still a problem.
Yeah.
And you insert yourself into the family and you help fix the problem, and then you don't move on because people fall in love with you. So I have the same thing with clients. I have clients that don't go away.
They become family.
Yeah, but some do. But some become family.
So when Gabe told you, or did you know early on that he was gay?
I knew, really, literally, when he was 3 years old. When all the other kids were playing with the trucks and the dinosaurs, Gabe was dressing his Beanie Babies and doing runway shows.
Oh, really? Okay.
This is a great story to tell you the two kids with the same parents in the same household. I took Sam and Gabe to see Peter Pan at the paper mill. Gabe's mouth drops open, and he's, Mommy, I'm going to be in a show. And he did study acting in college. Sam, at the end of the show, turns to me and says, Mommy, I see the strings.
Two different people.
Welcome to my world. And, Sam loves the Jets. Gabe doesn't know the difference between a touchdown and a home run. He only knows that at Yankee Stadium, as a little kid, he got a little Yankee monkey that, hung around his neck. He thought that was cool. But the game?
He doesn't know anything about.
Nothing.
So when he was growing up, how did you have discussions with him?
Well, conventional wisdom is you let them come out to you. So we tiptoed around it. I took him to theater all the time, whatever, birthday, Hanukkah, whatever. He wanted a theater experience as a gift. I took him. I supported his interests, and I just supported his personality. And like I said, when it got to the teen years, it was a little, it was getting a little different. So Sam was always with, the guys, and he'd say, who are you going out with? And he'd go, the Jew crew. And that was the 5 original friends from the JCC nursery school. And then he'd start listing the other kids that were going. And Gabe was always a harem. There was always Gabe and 6 girls in my house. And they were watching Real Housewives. So it was adding up. The little flags were adding up. And then, again, when my ex-husband was really in the throes of terrible pain and terrible anguish, and just, the filter was going, I said to him one day, I had him alone in the car, picked him up from a friend's house, and I said, okay, I know I'm just supposed to let you come out, but it's just organized mass chaos with everybody tiptoeing around it. So just tell your father, get it over with. I couldn't love you more. If you were straight, if you were a girl, if you were 3 children, I couldn't love you more. Let's deal.
And that is a very strong message for everybody who's watching. Your parents love you no matter what. You want to be open to your parents. The amount of incidents that we hear about with kids, right? They're not comfortable in telling their parents, and then they commit suicide. And really, kids, if there is something that you can get from this episode, is tell your mom, tell your dad, whoever you see more receptive, obviously, but one of them, go out and tell them, because they will love you no matter what.
Yeah, and it is. It's even knowing that he and I are like the two sides of the same coin, and we're very close, and certainly have a lot more in common in a lot of ways. And he certainly knows that, and that's been cemented over the years. But there were very tough times, and there were dark times, and again, there's no shame in getting help. There's no shame in sharing with other people.
Yes. You should never feel alone.
Never feel alone.
Yeah.
And I just hope that the world becomes a kinder place to our LGBTQ community, because it's a lonely. It can be a lonely world. It's very lonely, and it's very. And then within that community, there's all kinds of things branching, and more drugs, less drugs, and other things. I was telling Gabe recently, somebody that I had met for the first time, said that she identified herself as non-binary.
Oh, okay.
And I was telling Gabe about it, and he said, well, that's the generation after me is much more fluid about their sexual identity.
Because they're also more, they know that the awareness is more, and they can talk about it, and they don't have to be hidden.
Right.
I think that makes a huge difference, right? It doesn't have to be kept in the closet. They can talk about it and talk to their parents. So when you're coming back in the car and you're telling him to talk to his father, did he tell his father?
In his inimitable way, so he comes in the house, says nothing, gets his snack or dinner or whatever, and gets undressed. Everybody gets undressed, all lights out, and then about an hour later, he marches into the bedroom and tells his father, "I'm gay," and deal. Goes back to his room.
That's what he said?
Well, he knew it wasn't going to be a good discussion.
Oh wow, okay.
And then, sadly, it really never got better.
And how is Gabe's relationship with Sam?
They love each other to pieces. They don't have a lot in common, and they both work in the hospitality industry at this point, and retail and things like that. So they just sadly don't see each other much. But when they see each other, it's like they saw each other the day before. Sam, as macho as he is, could care less that he's gay. He knew too. I mean,
he has to know, right?
So it's just not. It's a non-issue between them,
right?
And I think they kind of enjoy that they're so different. So I'll go to the Yankee game with Sam, and I'll go to a Broadway show with Gabe. It's like they're not competing for my time at the same time,
right?
Because siblings without rivalry, forget it. That doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, in these two, there isn't that much.
Not the same way.
Not the yeah. But see the toll life takes. You go from a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath home to sharing a home with your friend, to going into an apartment, and sometimes that small apartment and a room that's with a friend has more peace in it. Than a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house on a hill. So it's not always what it seems.
No, not at all.
It's really what's going on inside. But Lenore's story does not end. We still have more. So stay tuned.
Well, I do want to say something about living with a dear friend. My friend is a little older than I am, about 12, 13 years older than I am. And her first marriage ended in a divorce, so she didn't have to ask any questions. She saw it on my face. And I can recognize it on somebody else's face now. They pay it forward. And just a brilliant, amazing, capable woman. And so I don't know if you remember, because you're too young, but some of your viewers may remember the sitcom Kate and Allie with the two divorced women.
I remember.
Okay. So it was Kate and Allie. Her second husband, who was a marvelous man, died suddenly.
Oh.
And she used to come to my house for Friday night dinner to kind of, not be alone for that. I invited her, and that's how she kind of got the peek around about what was
What was
really
going on in
going
the
on.
house. Yeah.
It's, not when I'm all dressed up in synagogue and putting on the happy face. And so we were Kate and Allie. We would sit there and talk every single night just about, and go about our own day and our own business. But she's so wise and so caring and just the right person for the moment that, you say this cannot be a coincidence.
Yeah.
And she gave me roots.
Yes.
And then she gave me the wings.
So now life is, after you moved to Monroe, you've gotten your life in semblance. It's kind of taken a toll for the better, because what goes down has to come up, right?
Yeah.
And now you have met a guy of your dreams. You're happy.
Yes.
You're back into the town that, you're local now.
Yeah.
And you're back home, but you're in a much more stable place
Oh,
in
yeah.
life. And there's no age for love, right? You found the love of your life now. And so please give what that feels like to women out there who have lost hope, saying, you know what, we've been through a brutal marriage and we don't know if we'll ever find who we want.
Yeah.
So give them some hope.
So so it does happen. The numbers game is ridiculous. So for 6 years on and off the treadmill, and Gabe had a long-term relationship that ended kind of abruptly, and home to mama to get the roots before the wings. So he's came to stay with me for a while, and so the first thing I do is to take him to a yoga class because it was yoga was part of my being good to myself and reinventing myself and centering myself and finding a new source of energy and fun. And so he thought I was crazy. He looked like something the dog threw up, and I'm taking it. I said, no, it's a restorative class, and it's not exercising. This is just for you to start to learn how to take care of yourself. And so we had a blast. He loved it. And Gabe is now teaching yoga.
Oh, wow.
He turned real thin, and he goes into positions that I can't even dream of doing with my new knees. So that was great. So after a couple of weeks of chicken soup and and fussing over him, he says, well, Mom, you're not reading profiles. And he brings me the requisite glass of wine because I got to the point where I couldn't do it without a glass of wine.
But see, you take care of your kids, and then it comes back when they're
Yes.
looking out for you, and they say, you know what, Mom?
Yeah.
What about profiles for you?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they did, right? As soon as my divorce was final, they told me, you're too young to give up. And I said, okay.
That's
And I did.
sweet. So
yeah,
sweet.
it was sweet. So but there was ups and downs in that approach of reinventing myself as somebody who's dating and not dating the way you would in your 20s. And now you have to reinvent a new way to do it, which is another conversation. But so he says, so he comes with a glass of wine, and I said, okay. And I opened up the Match.com page, yeah, and I said, just seeing the same faces for 6 years. I mean, they're seeing mine on and off too, but I have my limits to how much I can do each night. So I only went to Who's New, and within a week or 10 days of that, I saw Steve's profile. It was as somebody who was new to Match, and he only lived about 14 miles away. And I said, okay, and I said, let me read what he wrote about himself, and then I was hooked.
Look at that.
I don't remember exactly what it was.
And how long have you been with Steve now?
A little over 3 years.
A little over 3 years.
Yeah.
And I have spoken to Lenore in between, and I've met her. The glow on her face is really, really heartening, because it's nice to see you happy, because you deserve every bit of it.
Well, thank you.
Lenore, is there another message that you have for the women?
Yes, I think other than the three that I gave, there really is another important one, and that's what you think you want and need and what you really want and need could end up being not the same thing.
Yes.
And so you really have to do a lot of soul searching and you have to start asking the right questions.
If you do the same things, you're not going to get different results. So you have to do something different, and you have to put yourself out there. And get a life coach, get a counselor, go to meetup groups. These are important tips. She wasn't alone. She had a support system, which is important for everyone. No matter what situation in life you have, please get out there and get yourself a support group. You don't need to be alone. And the whole reason why Soul Talks is here is because they all come and share their story, because they never want anyone to feel alone. And with that, I'm going to end this segment with Lenore. Lenore, I want to thank you for joining me.
Well,
and thank you for sharing your story.
It's been a pleasure.
I hope you learned a lot out of this, because Lenore gave you a lot of pearls today. And with that, thank you again, and we look forward to having you in another episode. Thank you.